So, this Saturday, the 23rd of April, Tyson Fury and Dillian Whyte will face off in London for the WBC Heavyweight Championship of the world. So, how does this fight break down? What are each fighter's keys to victory? Well, for me, Tyson Fury, it's a no-brainer. He has to stay on the outside. He has to use that jab, his reach, to keep Dillian Whyte at bay, keep changing direction, little step overs. If the right hand is there, shoot the right hand in. If Dillian Whyte is coming forward and right into range, he then has to use the uppercut and some short hooks. But I see Fury frustrating Whyte all night long. If Whyte should get too close and too dangerous, we know Tyson is brilliant at leaning on the other person, putting that massive weight on the other person's shoulders and tiring them out. We know from previous fights that Dillian hasn't, I wouldn't say he's got questionable stamina, but he does tend to tire in the later rounds. And if you've got Tyson Fury continually keeping you at range, peppering you with that jab, using it as a rangefinder to set up the right hand and hooks, and if Whyte, like I say, should come too close, then you have the uppercuts. Then you have Fury tying you up. So it could be a long night for Dillian Whyte. And the other thing, like I said earlier, is that Fury is wonderful at changing direction, just stepping off the line. And as we've seen before, Dillian Whyte does tend to plod forward at times. Another thing that I think Tyson will be looking out for is when Dillian Whyte gets tired, he tends to plod forward, and instead of stepping in with the ball of the foot, he tends to go heel toe, and you know that he's going to come into range. As soon as he puts that heel down first, you know that then he's got to put the rest of the foot down to then start throwing punches. And as soon as you see that, that's the time for Tyson to attack. Just go back and have a look at when Tyson Fury fought Derek Chisora, who comes forward in that same plodding, not a lot of head movement, that same plodding manner. Tyson turned to southpaw. Now, people go on about Dillian's left hook. If Tyson turns to southpaw in this fight, it's going to make landing that left hook, unless Dillian's really in range, one hell of a task. It's an uphill struggle to land that left hook. If Tyson's getting his foot on the outside, peppering you with that southpaw jab, and then once he gets you in a certain position, which is just a little bit of an angle to his outside, Tyson will then pivot in and throw a very strong right hand. So he tends to flick out the jab and southpaw as a bit of a rangefinder, get you in a certain position just a little bit to his outside, and then he'll pivot and throw a wonderfully hard left hand, straight left hand, right down the pipe. So it's an uphill task for Dillian Whyte, but how could he win? Well, the obvious thing for Dillian is to get into range. He has to throw the jab out, even if it doesn't hit. He has to keep Tyson occupied. Throw the jab out and just use it to get into range. Could be a throwaway jab. He could throw to Tyson's chest, because you know Tyson's going to do all that herky-jerky movement, keep you guessing. So whatever Dillian can hit, he must hit. Keep that head moving, a lot of side-to-side movement. Keep Tyson guessing. Don't fall for the feints. If you see a lot of kidology from Tyson, just step back. I know that's not the thing that Dillian likes to do, but if you see Tyson feinting, herky-jerky, just step back a little bit. He must negate some of that. But when he's in range, like I say, throw the jab, whatever it hits, chest, stomach, whatever he can do. Dillian Whyte is called the body snatcher. Well, he's got a hook into the body, short, sharp uppercuts. Even if Tyson's leaning on you like blue murder, you still got to put those punches in. Put water in the basement, as Teddy Atlas says. It will have an effect. It will build up over the evening, over the 12 rounds. And maybe he can get Tyson to slow down a bit. Maybe. It's not been done yet, but you never know. Now, one of the things that I used to like to use is a tactic that was employed by Sugar Ray Leonard when he first wobbled Tommy Hearns. I think if you look at their first fight, it's round about the end of the 6th round. Comes in, Sugar Ray, looking at Tommy in the eyes, leans out to the outside, bends those knees, and almost does, and moves forward, and almost does a throwaway jab to the stomach. I don't think it hits. It's just to get a reaction from Tommy. Then he throws the overhand right, come hook, which does land. And then as he's coming up to full height, he uses that momentum to land a hook. Now that's a great way of getting inside. Another tactic, old school boxing tactic, which I used to like to employ, was, again, if you're with somebody who's got a rangy jab, you know, a taller fighter, get into your orthodox stance, come forward, hands up, high guard, and then as you come forward, it's a very rapid movement, you change stances. Orthodox stance, you step through into southpaw, a lot of head movement, tight high guard, then you step into orthodox, and by doing that sort of zigzag motion, you get into range. Now once you're in range, you land whatever shots you can and then tie up and nullify your opponent. Now hopefully in camp, Dillian's done a lot of work with tying up, controlling, nullifying your opponent close in, as well as being able to land your shots. It's a science all of its own. Now I know Andre Ward had his detractors, but if you go and look at Andre Ward's inside work, it is second to none. Dillian's going to have to take a lot of shots, he's going to have to take some heavy artillery, but he has to get into range. He can't fight long range, he can't fight mid range, he has to get into a telephone box with Tyson and turn it into a brawl, and that's the way he'll win. But once you're in that telephone box, you get a few shots away and then you tie up. And you do not let Tyson lean on you. You push him back as much as possible. And hopefully Dillian's done a lot of work on that, because you cannot have Tyson leaning on you. Every time you're in a clinch, you've got this massive man leaning on you. And the only way to negate that is to push him back. But what I see is a long night for Dillian Whyte, unless he can get into that telephone box with Tyson and make it into a brawl. I see Tyson peppering him with jabs, maybe turning southpaw, confusing Dillian even more, keeping him at range, and when the chance is there, in come the right hands and maybe an occasional hook. But pretty much all Tyson has to do is stay on the outside, keep changing direction, pepper with the jab, and set up the right hand when he can. And I see Dillian fading and sadly eventually stopped. But this is boxing and anything can happen. But the main thing is, I'm looking forward to a great fight and both fighters come out of that ring safe and well. Take care, and I'll give you a breakdown of the actual fight on Sunday.